Okay, this is going to be the notes for balancing chemical equations. Now, we're going to do part of it with me and take some notes on a little bit of an introduction to balancing chemical equations, and then you're going to watch Tyler DeWitt's videos. He does a really good job of showing you how to balance chemical equations. And since you're watching this because we can't be together for this particular piece of the unit, I think his video does a much better job of showing you how step by step to do balancing chemical equations than you would get by me just typing it out. So here we go. Balancing chemical equations. Well, first of all, what's the point? Okay, the point of balancing chemical equations, there is a reason why we have to do this, and we're going to talk about what balancing means and all of that. Okay, so we're going to talk about the law of conservation of mass. The law of conservation of mass. And you've probably heard of this before in a science class. Okay, here is what it is. Mass can neither be created nor destroyed. Mass can neither be created nor destroyed. That's the law of conservation of mass. Now, this means both sides of the arrow in a chemical equation, both sides of the arrow in a chemical equation must have the same number of atoms of each element. This means both sides of the arrow in a chemical equation must have the same number of atoms of each element. An atom cannot disappear or appear from nothing in a chemical equation. The reactants and products must have the same mass. Now remember, reactants are the part of the reaction that is before the arrow. They are doing the reacting. Products are being produced, so they come after the arrow. Okay, here's what we're going to be doing in words, okay, to satisfy that law of conservation of mass. Balancing chemical equations. Oops. You are going to use coefficients. Use coefficients. These are whole numbers in front of substances in the equation to make it obey the law of conservation of mass. Use coefficients, which are whole numbers in front of substances, in the equation to make it obey the law of conservation of mass. Coefficients can only be placed in front of substances, not between the elements of a compound. Okay, and Tyler's going to do a really good job of showing you that piece, okay? Coefficients must be whole numbers in the finished equation. So there might be a point where I'm working with you where I might show you to put a fraction or a decimal in front of a substance. But by the end, when we're all done, they will all be whole numbers. So we'll fix anything that's a fraction or a decimal. Coefficients multiply all of the atoms in a compound or element. So when you put a number in front of a substance in a chemical equation, it multiplies the substance. We're not adding, we're multiplying, okay? So got to keep that in mind. We've got to get our multiplication skills up to snuff, okay? Okay, so you're going to go through several examples, and he's going to have several little notes in his videos as well. I want you to write what you see. So if he has like a rule written out in words, write it. And then if he does an example, you don't necessarily have to draw pictures if he has pictures, but I want you to write the chemical equation, and I want you to write it with the numbers that he ends up with in front of the substances so that you kind of have some examples for yourself later when you're looking back, okay? So thank you for tuning in. Keep watching the rest of the videos in this playlist to get the whole set of notes for this section.